welcome to another edition of The Real Talk Show. I am your co-host, Lolita Kelsey, and
I'm Brother Charles.
Yes, and we are so excited to be here on today. So much has been going on the past couple weeks.
Absolutely. You have locally funerals that have been taking place. There's the down at Melnia Katz Boulevard and Washington Street, you have the protests,
yes,
fighting for rights. We don't want to live with this broken promise of promising us $50 an hour, and then when they start the $30 million project, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 and 4, they decided they're going to pay folks $11 to $15 an hour. So that protest is happening Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Now, have you been able to get out there yet? I haven't been able to.
No, well, you know, with Touch 106.1 FM, we are still broadcasting live, and we do have the protesters calling in at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8, and 8:30, giving us an update of what is happening. Also, what they have done is they've kind of split up the protests. They have the protests at Tropical Foods at Melnia Katz Boulevard and Washington Street, but also they have another protest going on, not a protest, they're giving out information pertaining to the protest down Dudley.
And that's absolutely everything that we need. We need to continuously make sure we know what is happening. I'm glad you brought up that Touch 106.1 FM. The fabric of the black community is still alive and well.
The regular programming giving you information to build a nation.
To build a nation, yes. If you haven't downloaded the Touch app, please make sure that you download it. It is absolutely essential that we support the station and that we stay on top of what the FCC is doing to the station, and that we prevail, and will prevail as long as you, the viewers, continue to stand with Touch.
And we're moving the ball forward. We have lawyers that are working pro bono for law teams, including the Governor's Council, and we are definitely moving the ball forward. We're trying to get some of the equipment back that was seized by the FCC, and it looks like that's going to happen. And also, we want the viewers to understand that licenses, there are two types of licenses when it comes to radio. There's commercial licenses that cost $65 million on up, depending on where you are and what you look like. And then there are community radio stations or low-power FM radio station licenses that are free. However, those licenses have not been available since the year 2000. But what I found out that in 2006 in Goldfield, Nevada, a white-owned and operated unlicensed radio station that was hit with a fine and their equipment seized, they were able to get back on the air with a special license with the help of their senator, Senator Harry Reid. Well, here in Boston, we have two great senators, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Senator Ed Markey. And with the help of those two that have been on Touch, and along with Congressman Michael Capuano and Congressman Stephen Lynch, who also have been on Touch, and the Governor Deval Patrick, who spoke out in the Boston Globe, who said that it was inappropriate, and he tried to stop the shutting down of Touch 106.1 FM on the airwaves. With that team of 5, plus our president, I believe we can get a special license just like Goldfield, Nevada. Also, I want to remind folks that on Saturday the 30th, there is going to be a celebration of life, a memorial service for a very dear friend of mine's, Monty Bowens, the former general manager for WILD 1090 AM.
Wow.
He died in an automobile accident over 2 weeks ago. It might have been, over 2 weeks ago. And the friends in California and his friends here in Boston, we have decided that we're going to have a celebration of life that's going to take place from 12 to 4 p.m. at Hibernian Hall, 184 Dudley Street. So come on down and reminisce and celebrate the life of Monty Bowens, a very good friend of mine.
Now, we've been talking about a lot of things that's happened in the past here. Ferguson, what could you tell people about what you know about Ferguson?
Well, I'll give you my perspective on Ferguson, Missouri. People are tired. They're fed up. Over 10 years ago, two black males were sitting in a car. They were unarmed and they were shot 20 times by the Ferguson Police Department. That's just something that I found out about most recently. However, as you know, Michael Brown, an unarmed black male at the age of 18, getting ready to go to college, was also gunned down. And the private autopsy showed that he was shot 6 times.
I thought it was 4 times.
He was shot 6 times.
6 times? Wow.
And it's apparent that the shots that killed him were the 2 shots that went to the head. Right above his right eye, it went in and actually exited out of his chest, and he was shot again in his, exited from his chin, and it went right into his chest.
So that means that he got shot in the top of the head, maybe?
Well, that's the one that's, he's 6'4". That's the one that happened right above his eye. But then there was one that happened at the top of his head. And the only way that could happen with a 6'4" person is that either he was falling down or leaning forward. He was shot in the top of the head, and that's actually the shot that killed him.
But it's really exciting to see how many people are participating now, walking hands up, don't shoot.
Right.
And this is something that we really need more training for our police officers. They are to be peace officers. And keeping the peace is part of the job. And we actually pay the officers to protect us, not to hurt us. And most officers I know are really good people and do the right thing. But you should also, as an officer, if you see something, say something among yourselves. That becomes one of the problems, I think, that we have among officers sometimes.
Absolutely. That's one of the issues. But the other issue that we have to look at is that Ferguson, St. Louis, the population is 67% black. 67% black. And when they had elections 3 weeks ago, only 12% of the population came out to vote. Wow. Now, the reason why I say that 67% of the population is black, well, if you look at the city council, the school board is only made up of exactly 100% white, 0 black. We have to become civically engaged also.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be a part of the picture, sometimes you have to insert yourself into the picture. If you want to be a part of the game, then you have to get in the game and at least take a shot. If you miss, that's okay, but at least you took that shot. Yes. Also, we have to understand when it comes to the makeup of the police department in Ferguson, Missouri, the police department is made up of 53 police officers. Out of those 53 police officers, 3 are black.
Now,
that's not right.
It's not.
But we also have to say, well, why is that? And that's because we are not civically engaged.
And we have to be civically engaged. Now, what about the representation here in the city of Boston? Since the elections of the new mayor, have we seen any real material changes?
Well, we've seen the diversity change when it comes to the chief of police here in the city of Boston. There are some attempts to that, but there's always more room for improvement. But the difference between Boston and Ferguson, Boston is 54% people of color. That's the difference. When you say people of color, you're talking about black, you're talking about Asian, you're talking about Latino, you're talking about Haitian, Jamaican. That's different. But when you have a community that's 67% black, that's totally different. That means they have to be totally engaged, and they can make changes through policy. You got to get out the vote. And I'm so glad that Reverend Al Sharpton at the ceremony, at the rally on Sunday, stated that they're going to put together a team of young individuals that are going to go out there and register people to vote.
Okay, well, we only have 3 more minutes for us to sit here before we bring on some dynamic guests. So before we get into that topic, what else is going to be happening in the next coming weeks?
Well, we have the Touch of Love Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Our third year of the Touch of Love Cruise. I am going to Mexico. Well, we're going to fly into New Orleans on Saturday, this Saturday, and then we take the nice cruise to Mexico, and we go to Cozumel, Belize, Honduras, and just have a fantastic time. And it's going to be great, and hopefully next year, you'll be able to join us on the Touch of Love Cruise #4.
I plan to be there next year.
And in 2 years, we're taking a trip to the motherland.
Oh, wait a minute. I have to see if I want to do the cruise or do I want to go to the motherland. That's going to be hard.
Absolutely. So make sure you download the Touch app.
Yes.
If you have an Android or a smartphone, go to the Play Store, type in Touch 1061, all one word, Touch 1061, hit install, and it'll be right on your app, and it doesn't cost you anything. Touch 106.1 FM is paying for the data.
Absolutely. And we want to remind you also that on next Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the Reggie Lewis Center, the Friends of Madison Park High School will be having their second meeting, and it's for the community to get engaged and to learn what is happening in your neighborhood and about our school. So make sure that you come out to that. Now, the carnival is this Saturday,
It's Saturday, but with Madison Park, let's remind folks that with less than 3 weeks before the schools open up, they're looking for 62 teachers. Can you believe that? 62 teachers they're looking for Madison Park for our future. But also this Saturday we have the carnival that's taking place starting at Martin Luther King Boulevard, heading up Warren Street, right into beautiful Uptown Grove Hall, into beautiful Franklin Park.
Now, we're going to go to a video about net neutrality. A lot of people do not know what net neutrality is, and this video will help to begin that conversation here on the Real Talk Show this evening with you. And when we come back, we'll be coming back to speak with Noelani Kamelamela, I believe that's her name, and James O'Keefe.
There you go.
Okay, so you stay tuned.
Job.
Stay tuned with us. We'll be right back.
The way the internet works today, everyone is connected to each other through the same level playing field. But a handful of phone and cable companies want to change all that. They want to lock down parts of the web and make sites pay them more money to use it. Everyone else will get the slow lane. How will they do that? By killing one of the internet's founding principles, net neutrality.
So what is net neutrality?
I'm not even sure what net neutrality means.
You connect to the web through pipes owned by telephone and cable companies. But the deal is they're not allowed to mess with what's inside those pipes, whether it's Google or Yahoo, Lonely Girl or Bill O'Reilly, everyday citizens or business tycoons. Everybody's website gets the same speed and quality. That's called net neutrality.
So what's the debate? That actually seems quite fair.
Yes, almost too fair. It's as though the richer companies get no advantage at all.
The companies want to set up a restricted fast lane on the internet, but only for their partners and services. Only sites who pay them a huge fee would be allowed to use it, making them gatekeepers.
But thanks to you, the tides are turning. Over 1 million Americans have petitioned Congress to protect our internet's level playing field. And with your help, we can make net neutrality the law in our new Congress. So sign the petition, call your representatives, and share this message with friends. And use the internet to save the internet at savetheinternet.com.
And welcome back to the Real Talk Show with your co-host, Brother Charles, and
I'm Lolita Kelsey.
as you saw, some information about net neutrality, and we're going to discuss net neutrality. And our guest in the studios is Kamelamela, along with
Noe, yes. No way, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I like Kamelamela.
I like that too, actually. I actually do.
And James O'Keefe of the Massachusetts Pirate Party. Welcome to the Real Talk Show.
Welcome.
And it's our
Thank you.
pleasure. We saw the clip about net neutrality. Exactly what is net neutrality in layman's term? And then we're going to kick it into the Massachusetts Pirate Party.
So first, thank you both for having us on. So net neutrality, when the internet was first proposed, anyone's traffic, what are called packets, the information that you send when you go to a website, gets put together in these packets and sent out over the network from the server through different routers and ultimately to your computer or your phone. That anyone could use that equally. So there wasn't any preference in terms of if I went to Google or if I went to a local store, their traffic would be treated the same. But and that was net neutrality, and that's what we've had for many years. But what we're seeing with our telecoms, with our internet service providers, Comcast, things like that, is they want to be able to say that their certain providers who have paid them money get faster access. So for example, to go to Netflix and say, well, unless you give us money, you're going to go at a slower rate. Or if you're a mom and pop store, if someone goes to your website, their access to you is going to be at a slower rate. Or if it's Comcast's own video provider, that gets to your computer, your phone faster. And so what that's doing is creating a tiered environment where unless you're connected, unless you pay money, you won't get the same access. Now, we all pay into the internet in the sense that I go to RCN and I pay them money, and then I have as much bandwidth as I want to use.
Right.
And Netflix goes and they pay. They go and they pay their internet service provider.
Okay.
And then there's intermediate companies that are basically paid by the different ISPs to transport the data. Mm-hmm. We're already paying.
Right, right.
By Comcast, for example, trying to exact even more money just goes and fattens their profits and means that the mom and pop store or the less connected business out there will not have the same speed as someone who's willing to pay that money. So all in all, we lose because we pay more money and we'll get less service.
Tell me this, Noe or Mr. O'Keefe, what is the Pirate Party and how does that fit into net neutrality?
The Massachusetts Pirate Party was started in 2010, and it's part of the international pirate parties. We're part of the U.S. Pirate Party, and one of our main tenets is having an open internet and allowing the free flow of information, because we can only be free with each other as well as in terms of participating in civics when we actually have access to information.
Now let me ask you this first, so viewers could understand, what is the Pirate Party? Is this like a Democratic Party, or is it like the Green Party or Rainbow Party? What is the Pirate Party?
So we are a political party.
A political
you
party,
can go
okay.
and when you fill out your voter registration form, you can write in, instead of green or libertarian, you can write in pirate. And so people can become members simply by doing that. They can go to our website and sign up. What the Pirate Party is we say we're the party of open government, open culture, open innovation, and people first. Or as I also like to say, we want to make sure you have privacy and the government doesn't. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing with the Snowden revelations, with what happened to Chelsea Manning, that our government is increasingly unresponsive to our needs. And so the Pirate Party was formed to challenge that. It's originally about issues of copyright and patents and government transparency, but also about issues of police power. Our militarized police are also issues that we're concerned about, and of course the surveillance that we regularly see, from NSA surveillance to the more cameras on MBTA buses.
So, James, it's fair to say that you are a third party.
That's correct.
What makes you different from any other third party?
We're a values-based party. We're focused on our core issues, but we're also focused on the individual and making sure our government empowers individuals, both at the economic level and at the political level and at the cultural level. I've been on the internet for over 20 years, and so my kids have never known anything but the internet. Mm-hmm. And there's videos out there and there's works of art out there that are free and to be shared, but we're seeing more and more corporations that are trying to lock those down. That are trying to say, these areas that we paid for, we have exclusive control, and you can't do anything unless you pay us money. We don't think that's right. We think people are fundamentally creative. Knowledge doesn't come from someone's eureka idea, but instead comes from the work of people that came before them. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. And so the only way we're going to get out of our ecological crisis, the only way we're going to build a fair and just society is by leveraging everyone's skills and making sure that everyone has a decent life to be productive, to create culture, and to create the world that we want.
Noe, President Barack Obama, he recently spoke out pertaining to net neutrality. To me, it appears that he supports the fairness. What do you say?
I think that it's a very good idea for him to support this fairness. In particular, we would see, without net neutrality, we'd see a vast decrease in diversity. And people who don't already have access to the internet will have even less choice than they already do. So I know people in my own community who don't have internet in the first place. Mm-hmm. They can't get it. They can't afford it. And creating yet another tier just means that the internet that they might be able to afford may not provide them the services they need. They may not be able to get on a government website and say, for instance, look at the FCC comments and reply to these comments by September 15th this year, because they may not have the speed necessary. So I believe that his belief in net neutrality is a very good one to have, especially for those of us who are of color.
You mentioned the FCC.
Mm-hmm.
The FCC already regulates the airwaves, particularly low-power FM, where the licenses are free. However, they have not been available since the year 2000. What role does the FCC play with this net neutrality?
Well, currently, they are being told that they cannot enforce net neutrality.
Thank God.
Right?
Well, you don't want them to enforce it. We want to have the freedom that we have now, correct?
I believe that they need to classify the internet like they do a telephone company or the cell phone companies, where it's a telecommunication entity instead of an information type. So it's a classification, I believe, that ties the hands that may make things worse for me. Am I understanding this correctly?
No, that's correct. The FCC tried to put rules in place to allow make net neutrality the name, the expected, to make that make that the law of the land. The problem was the court stepped in and said, you can't do that, you don't have the power to do that.
And that's an advantage of the corporations, what the court has done.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what they can do is they can reclassify them the same way they classify phone companies as common carriers, which means you cannot discriminate. When you go and call someone, they can't say, oh, you want to call this person? That'll cost you 50 cents more. Once you have the phone, once you use the phone, the cost is the same no matter who you call. There's no additional fee. Only by, say, doing an international call would there be additional fees.
All right, so it's fair to say that the FCC is not going to try to regulate like they do with low power FM.
Let's hope not. I don't believe. I mean, if they go and make
look at their
ISPs.
history.
Well, but that's an unaccountable organization. We have
Right.
our government, and unfortunately, is often serves to help the more connected, larger corporations. And the fact that they haven't put licenses out or made them available since 2000, 14 years, for low-power radio stations is a crime, in my viewpoint. If people want to be able to do it, then they should be able to fill out a form, send it in. They say yes or no. They tell you,
Exactly.
if not, why not, and you can appeal, and you go forward with it. But it shouldn't be they just lock it down. I mean, this would mean that internet service providers couldn't discriminate in terms of the traffic that goes over their network if they become a common carrier. But it wouldn't put any additional licensing on it.
There's no additional enforcement. I mean, there are other parts of the rules that the FCC proposed that are very good. So for instance, one thing that is there is transparency. ISPs have to broadcast, or rather tell people exactly what they're charging and what they're charging you for. So if they're charging you for 25 megabits per second, you can go out and you should be able to look at another ISP who's charging perhaps a different amount for the same speed. And I think that is actually a good addition, because that promotes competition and allows people to be able to shop around. And this is something that ISPs were not accountable for prior to that.
Now, I believe that I heard also and read somewhere that the internet was actually paid for by the taxpayers.
The design in the original internet was paid for by the Department of Defense, ARPA, or DARPA at the time.
DARPA.
Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
Right. Why is it that we don't have free internet services all across the country? I know at some points, in some places, they have internet access, Wi-Fi.
Well, I remember when AOL first came out, they needed my credit card.
Yes. So how can the citizens, residents, actually push to have that access available? Since everyone now, our children, everyone is on the internet.
And does that have anything to do with municipal internet?
Ooh, I agree wholeheartedly with Lolita. The access is absolutely important. Internet is where we're getting all of our information about what bus we ride, about what school we should go to, about how we can communicate with each other. I mean, a lot of the news coming out of Ferguson, Missouri is really coming because people are using their phones. Mm-hmm. They're not allowing the voice of authority to overcome the true narratives that are taking place in Missouri today. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we continue to fight for, hopefully, free or relatively cheap Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. Municipal internet is one way to do that. So for instance, your county or your city can decide to make available access points, because many of our cities here in Boston already have existing internet or have existing cables. They can allow us as citizens to use those access points. This will not be free, though. Mm-hmm. So this is something...
It could be free.
It could be free, but it's something we have to invest in now for greater gains for all of us in the future. Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, what we've seen is the large corporations like Comcast have gone to different states and have basically banned municipalities from creating their own internet service providers, because they give the excuse that it harms competition. But when oftentimes there's only one or two providers at best in a town or something, we need more competition. I mean, that's the problem that we've had for the last 20 or so years, is that we have more and more concentration and less competition. And so by allowing municipalities to go in, use their already existing infrastructure, and be able to have Wi-Fi either free up to a point, or maybe then above a certain amount per month you would have to pay, or just make it freely available, and just have it as a municipal line item. Whatever that town wants to choose should be allowed to keep these corporations honest.
You brought up Ferguson, Kamelamela, and one thing that you stated was that the people were using their cell phones to get the word out. Social media. I mean, I was watching it live on social media as opposed to watching it on the news, because the news would just give you...
Was it actually on the news? Was there anything there?
I believe it was forced that the news had to start covering some of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But so now they're talking about banning the information that the cell phones are transmitting. Blocking that. Where does the Massachusetts Pirate Party stand on that? And then they're also saying that in some locations they're using cameras on the glasses of the police, and that has actually lowered some of the police brutality in that community.
Always a good thing.
It should be mandatory.
When we use these tools, these technologies to hold people accountable, we shouldn't be surprised that they respond in such a way. When I know that I'm being filmed, or that I'm even filming myself, I can see my own feed, I know that I'm going to treat other people with respect, because it's my job to treat people with respect. It is actually, I feel that it's very shameful that that is one of the end results, but you would believe that people would hold themselves accountable, but in reality, they need this extra device. And I think it's something that we as a party have been talking about in terms of demilitarizing our police, hopefully giving them another tool to calm themselves down, to really be able to look at a situation. Because even when they have those video feeds, that gives them more situational awareness. It makes them realize, oh, the person in front of me yelling at me is just one person. This is not necessarily a dangerous situation. I've seen this before. Perhaps if someone's also on a line with them, they can give them a little extra feedback. So it's helpful for our police as well as for us as citizens. And I think the use of technology is going to be even more and more important going forward.
Absolutely.
Now, we've been speaking about our president a lot here this evening. So we have a short clip that I'd like us to listen to on him speaking about net neutrality. So please continue to watch. If you have any questions, you could call us at 617-708-3280.
I'm writing it down too, so I know the number.
And definitely start to learn more about net neutrality and about keeping the internet free, and of course about this new pirate party. So we're going to go to that clip and we'll be right back.
Let's move back to the questions. And I got to tell you, the number one question that came in the jobs and economy category had to do with the internet. And it came from James Earlywine in Indianapolis. He said, an open internet is a powerful engine for economic growth and new jobs. Letting large companies block and filter online content and services would stifle needed growth. What is your commitment to keeping the internet open and neutral in America?
Well, I'm a big believer in net neutrality. I campaigned on this. I continue to be a strong supporter of it. My FCC chairman, Julius Janikowski, has indicated that he shares the view that we've got to keep the internet open, that we don't want to create a bunch of gateways that prevent somebody who doesn't have a lot of money but has a good idea from being able to start their next YouTube or their next Google on the internet. So this is something we're committed to. We're getting pushback, obviously, from some of the bigger carriers who would like to be able to charge more fees and extract more money from wealthier customers. But we think that runs counter to the whole spirit of openness that has made the internet such a powerful engine for not only economic growth, but also for the generation of ideas and creativity.
And welcome back to the Real Talk Show. I'm your co-host, Brother Charles.
And I am Lolita Kelsey, your co-host.
And you just heard from our President, Barack Hussein Obama, on net neutrality. Today's topic is on net neutrality. Before we went to that clip, I had brought up about the cell phones possibly being blocked. Apple has a pattern that's going to be coming out that could do that, or?
Well, Apple applied for a patent whereby their iPhone would turn off recording if it received a certain signal over the air, so that if police could go and say, well, we don't want to be recorded in this particular area for whatever reason, let's say it's not nefarious, and they could broadcast that signal, and anyone trying to record would be prevented from it.
Record on their cell phones?
Record on their cell
Video.
phone. Theoretically, it could be someone's camera if the technology were widely adopted.
Wow.
And that would be a problem, because then, as we've talked about, it's important to keep our public officials honest, and one of the ways we can do that is by recording them on their job, not
Absolutely.
off the job, but on the job. And if they can prevent that, then suddenly that tool is no longer available to us.
Are there any members of the Massachusetts Pirate Party that's running for office?
Yes, I am actually running for state representative in the 27th Middlesex District, and I will be on the ballot for general election on November 4th, 2014. So people in the 27th Middlesex District, or if you know people in the 27th Middlesex District,
Which is Somerville.
which is in Somerville, please give them a call, ask them to pledge to vote, and to get the word out. Also register to vote. I am from a state where less than 44% of people who are actually registered to vote turn out to vote regularly. So I know that it can be especially a challenge for those of us in communities of color, in part because we feel that perhaps that we are looking at a government that does not feel like it should be held accountable, and that is a big problem, and one that we can change from within.
We mentioned and I'll give you a chance.
Sure.
James. We mentioned the Apple. Is that the same as the kill switch?
No, that would be something different. So 2 states, including California, have passed laws that would allow the police to be able to kill a phone. And the reason given is that if someone steals your phone, you want to be able to kill it, which I can understand that, but the problem is someone's on the run, and they want to be able to kill the phone, so they can't communicate with anyone.
Oh, wow.
That could have potential civil liberties implications.
And I know that you want to chime in on Kamelamela.
Well, I'm really pleased that Noe is running. I'm also live in Somerville. But we also have a candidate, Joseph Girton, who's running in the 8th Worcester District down in Bellingham.
Okay.
He's also running as state representative as well.
Wow, great.
So it's our first 2 candidates, and we hope there'll be many more city elections and town elections next year, and then in 2016 we have more state and town elections. So,
Across the country, how many elected officials do we have right now in your party?
I believe 1.
What state is that?
New York.
New York? So what percentage do you usually get with Pirate Party candidates in America right now, since you're new?
Well, obviously more than a majority in that case, in that particular office. It varies. I don't know the figures off the top of my head. Certainly in Europe, where a lot of the parties are, where a lot of the governments elect things proportionally. So if you get 10% of the vote, then you get 10% of the parliament.
The office, okay.
They have had people who were in Sweden. They had 2 people who were elected. They got about 7 to 9%. In Germany, they're in 4 state parliaments and got anywhere between 5 and 10% in those various elections. They first got elected in Berlin, which the city of Berlin is considered a state.
So what are the target offices that you usually look to go? Are you going to become presidents one day here, or?
I think our main goal as someone who's running and who's talked to other people who are interested in running as pirates is to run local, run often. In part, running provides so many opportunities. I can talk about Somerville all day long in other communities and sort of signal boost organizations I care about, such as 15 Now New England or local unions. And so it's a great opportunity, especially as a young or older person, to really share about your community. It is not just a drain on energy. I have actually been able to do this, to campaign and hold down 2 jobs at the same time. So you can plan to run if you're interested, and I hope you are.
Recently in the Boston Globe, or maybe it was the Herald, it talked about the lack of diversity when it came to candidates running. Your campaign, what is your makeup when it comes to those that are working, your staff? What percentage Black, what percentage Asian, what percentage Latino, what percentage women?
So we don't have a lot of, I'm trying not to spend a lot of money. It's mostly volunteers. So
Okay.
for my staff, I think we're primarily white. We have,
Say we're 1/3 people of color.
we're 1/3 people of color, but we have African American and Asian, and I'm considered Asian Pacific Islander. And I think those are the 3 main people of color. I don't think we have that many Latinos, but they are in there. We have a huge Portuguese-speaking community in Somerville, and I'm very grateful for any support, trust me.
Right.
So one thing I just want to point out, I mean, in Massachusetts, for example, we crunched some numbers and we found that 60% of all state rep races for the last few elections ran unopposed. So already you just have one candidate on the ballot for 60% of those seats. That isn't really a democracy, and so by running, we're trying to challenge that. We obviously want to find more people to run. Even if they lose, it's still advantageous to go and be out there, to be seen, to connect with people, and we see things from a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
We're not here, we're going to run somewhere, president, we're going to win. Been there. Was active on the Nader campaign and with the Greens and things like that. And so our focus is on U.S. House of Representatives and lower, preferably city, town, state rep.
Now, does the ACLU support the Pirate Party, and does the Pirate Party support the ACLU?
They cannot support any political party due to their tax status. We certainly support them, and where they've had different, like we've helped them in organizing crypto parties where people can learn how to make their communications secure, so the NSA or other people or police or anyone cannot just pick it up and then know what you're saying when you talk with someone or you video chat with someone.
So I want us to go back to net neutrality for a minute. And what does it mean to a business owner, such as Touch 106.1 FM, to be on the internet and for net neutrality not to be implemented? What is that going to mean to a small business owner, to a photographer, or a mom and pop shop? On literally what will happen?
Well, Touch is a really good example because I believe you stream.
Yeah, we've been streaming since the year 2006, 10,000 listeners, and we're in 100 countries.
So when you go and you stream, your shows, the RCN could basically come to you and say, "Oh, well, if you want to go at the faster rate, you're going to pay us money, and if you don't, well, then you just have to deal with whatever the slower rate is." And then they, in essence, are favoring larger media companies that can pay that additional money to get their streams onto RCN or Comcast or Cablevision or any
So
of those.
that means that, folks would go to our website, touchfm.org, and literally not be able to open it?
Or it might be slower, or maybe it might not, they might not hear everything that comes over because it's so slow.
Wow.
Okay, so that's
money. I mean, then
that cuts off the speech that we need
Absolutely.
to get through
The voice,
the
yes.
voice, and that's not really acceptable.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's acceptable, not for your community and certainly not for ours.
So what should the community do? What can the community do?
So right now is considered the open internet reply comments time for the FCC's whole commenting period, the public commenting period. So if you go to the FCC website at fcc.gov, you should be able to, say, download comments, and as well you can then reply to those comments. So this commenting period is purely to reply to comments that have already been filed with the FCC.
Okay.
And this will be open until September 15th, 2014. So we've still got about 3 weeks left. And I know that looking at 1 million comments may not excite your viewers. There are over 1 million comments that people have already filed, and so it could be hard for you to search for a particular comment to reply to. There are people currently looking at and analyzing all of the comments to sort of pull them down into their basic messages. So many messages have come through, say about 10% that have said, net neutrality is excellent, and if we don't have it, we will lose diversity. Diversity in communication, looking at different communities, what we will get is less. And that is a good type of comment to reply to. So if you were able to open this data and look at it, you should be able to reply to that on the FCC website or send them an email.
So we go to www.fcc.gov.
That is correct.
And then look for search net neutrality.
That is correct.
Awesome. How can our viewers get in contact with the Massachusetts Pirate Party?
Yes.
Well, we're on the web at masspirates.org, and anyone can go there. Just like when you go to Google or you go to PayPal or other sites where they encrypt the data between you and them so that people can't see what you're sending. We've done that as well, so people can just go there and it'll automatically work, so people can be secure that the NSA doesn't know what you're doing when you go to our website. But masspirates.org, they can also send us email at info@masspirates.org. We're on Twitter, Mass Pirates, we're on Facebook, Mass Pirates.
We also physically show up in various places. We were at this weekend's rally to support people against police brutality, which marched to the BPD from Copley Square on Saturday. And we're pleased to come out to things that people invite us to. We would love to meet more people and talk to more people about net neutrality and other issues of interest.
You mentioned NSA. What's NSA?
The National Security Administration?
Okay.
National Security Agency, excuse me. They were formed after World War II to oversee all of our electronic spying on other governments.
Right.
And since 9/11, they've broadened it to be able to pull up, and indeed they've been going in and gathering phone calls via the FBI. They've been gathering they've been gathering what we say, who we contact, from where we're calling, what's in our email. They're sniffing up all of these and they're putting into vast databases. They can go and look up you and say, what do we know on you? What are your passwords, for example? They have that information potentially. And so they shouldn't be spying domestically. I mean, they shouldn't be spying on everyone in the world, but they certainly shouldn't be spying domestically. They're supposed to go after the terrorists and other foreign hostile governments and things like that, but not pulling everything up. But since under Bush and Obama, they've been gathering up all this information. They have files on all of us.
They also have files on our ally nations, which has gotten us into a lot of hot water with the UN.
Or Germany.
And well, especially Germany, considering that they're pretty much the head of the EU right now. That is an awkward situation for all of us to be in.
Well, we got a few minutes left, and I know we have a special announcement to...
We're not going to make that announcement again. I just was told. So we have a few more minutes just to continue our conversation.
The special announcement is that they're still here. And they're not going anywhere.
I want to ask this question to both of you, and maybe if you could tell us in a minute each. Why should residents care about this at all?
we're seeing more and more since what happened with the bombing in Boston and what happened in Watertown, we're seeing more and more police be using military gear. We're seeing more and more surveillance cameras going up. You know, I was taking my children to camp and got onto a bus and saw 10 cameras on an MBTA bus, and then there's the TV screen that will show you all 10 cameras, and you can look at everyone there. That information can be retained, and who knows when it could be used against you. I mean, we saw with Aaron Schwartz, where if prosecutors decide that you're someone they want to target, they can dig up stuff on you. I mean, there's a well-known book, I think 3 felonies a day. Everyone in their average day commits potentially 3 felonies every single day. And if all of that information is being recorded, someone could go back years and say, oh, look, this person who we don't like did something, and we can go prosecute them. And we know in the federal case, something like 94 and 96% of all cases are basically pled out. They don't even go to court. So there's so much power that our prosecutors have that they can pick and choose who they want to go after. We aren't going after HSBC. We aren't going after, we know HSBC.
We're not going after TD Bank. No, we're not going after Bank of America.
But HSBC went and they laundered money to the tune of billions of dollars for drug cartels, for terrorists, for other governments who we don't support. None of those guys went to jail. But if you're someone here who, in San Diego, who gets a little bit extra money from the government, they can come back at you and say, oh, even though it's our mistake, we're going to go and take that money back from you, and we're going to fine you. If you get a $100 fine, they can slap fee after fee after fee on you, and suddenly you're paying $500. And if you don't have money, it's $1,000. That isn't our democracy. And so the Pirate Party, we believe people have to have rights, people have to be in charge of their government. And we don't see that now. And so we hope people will support us. We obviously want people to come out and join us to challenge this so that we are in control of our government.
Now, you have some events that are coming up.
We do have some events that are coming up, but to wrap it up, James is making the point of who watches the watchers. And without net neutrality, say, for instance, the tweets from Ferguson, Missouri, we wouldn't have access to them. They would never come through. So it's very important, especially for those of us who are young, who require investments in our communities now for our children, for our children's children. It's important for us to make that investment in net neutrality, to allow for diversity and for actual equal access.
And you're going to be on the ballot, you said November 4th.
November 4th,
and that's for Somerville voters.
Yes.
We've had a really great time sitting and speaking with you all on today. We are going to encourage you to find out more about net neutrality and to download the Touch app. Where would they find the app?
Oh, they can go right to the Play Store.
Google Play?
And that's right, go right to the Play Store. Before we leave, I know we're going to have the picture of Antoine Knight.
Actually, he brought it up? Thank you. Okay. This young man we lost him on August 11th, and we need to make sure that we stop the violence in our streets. What's going on in Ferguson, Missouri, is it?
Yes, it's going on in
It's going on in every city, yeah.
Every city.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So we want you to keep people in your prayers, and we want to right now thank our guest again, all the crew members, studio manager and technicians, and everyone. And be sure to tune in again to the Real Talk Show. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Charles.
Information to build a nation.
Yeah. We're going to sit here while